Okay, guys, we're going to do a quick recording and break down the Google chart. Be a quick recording. But does anybody have any guesses of where 1, 2, and 3 will be? Does anybody even know what I'm talking about? So I'll do this a number of times with you guys, but just remember 2 is where we are, 1 is underneath, and then 3 is above. And that's, you're ultimately playing in between ranges. And then ultimately what happens within 2, we really need a detailed version because that's what allows me to scout. So I'm going to maximize this and let's start breaking this thing down. So the first thing that I'm going to do is play some, I'm sorry, you can hear the playing of Fortnite in the background of my kid, so that's what that noise is. Hey, can you just turn it down a little bit? I apologize about that. So here, let's do this first. We're going to exclude these 2 days and we're going to come back to those last, which is the last 2 days. And then I'm going to take this upper level and just break it down, right? So I'm going to do it and go to the shortest time frame that I can, be it a 5 minute, be it a 3 minute. It looks like a 5 minute. So a 5 minute encapsulates everything that I want to encapsulate. And that's from the gap up, right? The breakout area. And here we are, right? So here's basically section 3. And because we're not in section 3, it doesn't have to be super detailed, right? That's going to be the main area, right? So we know this is the point of control. So we'll just thicken these up a little bit, right? That's your chunk, right? So if we get over that, if there's ever a time where we get over that, we should expect a rally. Well, where's the rally going to go to? Well, you still have a smaller, VP here, right? That will provide some resistance. And if this provides resistance up here, what do you think the next play is going to be? So if you have the price and price actions coming up and it hits this level, what should we do as a group and as people trying to play this? What would be the next play? These are things you need to be able to see coming so that you can prepare for them. Well, the next play is to buy the retest. You're up and over. So I'm buying this retest. So if we ever break over 135, right? 135, what is this, 50? And push, we should push to 136 and then get a pullback to 135.50. If we get a breakout to 135.55 and fail, that's not a breakout. I'm not buying that retest, right? It needs to push up and away. Okay, so I think we're good for right now on the upside. There's more, and as we start moving into that range, we will identify these, but for now, that's all we need. Now, I need to go back to a daily chart and show you the next levels we need to break down. So what are the people catching us right now? Where are they going to be? They're going to be in this box, right? So we need to be able to look into this box and figure out where everybody is. We can know everybody's cost basis. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom to got to use a 15. So I got to use a 15. So if you have TradingView, you can actually use 1 minute. But for me, I'm going to do this right here. And I'm going to bring it all the way to here. I'm going to zoom to this selected region. Now, okay. Now, why do you guys think I bought Googl Friday? So I'm willing to take a bet that Googl bounces somewhere within this range. So that's my shot. That's what I'm doing. Now, I think it actually already did, right? Well, I'll show you afterwards. But this is the range we're at right now. I was betting that Googl's going to bounce somewhere in this range. We had some bad news that chewed us right through this one, but there's some more resistance. And then we've got range to right here if that breaks, right? And I'm making this one much more detailed because this is the range we're currently in.
Are you playing trees?
So let's duplicate that. Okay, now what I want to know is if we do break down from this very bottom level here, which is 129.26, where's like, hey, if I can manage a trade and add one more position to it, it'd be right here, And then this is your last ditch effort that would bounce. And then after that, it looks like you're going to want to go down into the gap, right? Okay. So now this is our section 2, right? So now we've got section 1, we've got section 2. Now let's see section 3. Well, the thing that just screams right at me is we're getting into a gap. Your next support level is gap fill, right? However, you do have a little bit of people that will act as support right here, right? These guys, this head and shoulders pattern that broke down into a inverted head and shoulders and then ripped up, right? So what that's going to look like is we're going to have to look at that on a 30-minute chart to go back that far. And then we're going to zoom in to these people. So once again, take it from here to basically here. We'll zoom into them. And you can see that level is really top side here, right? To here. Now, this is all I need. This is all I need for below. You know, I see that there's one down here, and sure, we can throw it in there if we want. But when we start getting into that range, this is when we will begin really breaking it down. So you can see below, above, it's just, yeah, absolutely. Uh-huh. So the question for the recording is, if you put in an anchored VWAP from, are you doing it from the 25th or the 26th? Uh-huh. So that would be resistance because price is underneath it, right? So what I would encourage you to do with that anchored VWAP is move it up to the 26th because that's where we need to measure from. There's nothing significant about the 25th, but throw in your anchored VWAP from the 26th. And I 100% agree with you, right? And you can actually throw in another anchored VWAP from this breakout, right? And then you could throw in another anchored VWAP from this breakout, right? So all, yeah, it's right at it, right? And so what this is telling us is if we were to take from the 25th forward, everybody's average price is right here, okay? And for right now, we're underneath these people, right? So do we need to come down here and wash everybody out, close this gap maybe, or is it going to bounce from here? Well, my theory is we're going to bounce from here. We're gonna get a bounce somewhere in between here, and we already did. And so I bought this yesterday. I was live with Nate. Nate said, "Hey, take a look at Googl," and I said, "Oh, you're tempting me. I gotta buy it. I have to buy it right now." So I bought it. I was able to scalp out a couple bucks, right? And so now the piece that I bought at 130, I literally have an average down at 128. So now if we come back down to 129.26, I'm going to buy it again because I think we'll get another bounce and it'll probably bounce back up to 130, right? But my risk level on this one is going to be pretty tight. I don't want this to get down into the 128.35 or 127.45 because then we're underneath the people right here, right? We're going to be underneath all these people. So for me, the chart becomes broken to the long side if we break down and through 129. Now, what that would need to look like is a wick down to 129 and hitting 128.75 and then coming right back up within an hour. That's not a break. You're just, yeah. So here, let's zoom into it and I'll show you exactly what it is. So 15 minutes. Is Jacob on, Sweets? No, okay. Um, so right there. So now when I take these lines away, you can see pretty clearly Do you see this ledge right here? The bottom side of this VP is 129.25. So if we start coming down and consolidating between 128.48 and 129.25, that's bearish in my opinion until it breaks back into this range. So at that point, maybe it's going to create an inverted head and shoulder, a W with a lower right shoulder, anything that would be considered a break and a recline. Does that make sense? So for me, the way that I trade and the way that I want to be a part of Googl is if we are above this group of people here, all of these people in this box. Does that make sense? Any questions on this? When I'm in TC2000 and select the time frames, I'm going to go back as far, and my VWAPs are wider, not as precise. Is there a setting I'm missing? Tracy, when I'm in TC and select time frames, I'm not able to go back as far. It might be TV size. Honestly, I don't know. You know, the reason that I have such a humongous screen right here in front of me is because I get the detailed VPs and I can really read the charts. It doesn't mean you need to go buy a freaking 65, 72-inch TV. You know, right now we just need to get the general ranges down and learn the general process, and then we can start moving on from there. So you may not be able to get the exact levels that I'm getting, but like he was saying 129.70-ish, right? Well, so in I think it was Tommy, right? When Tommy was talking, it was like 129.75. Okay. You've got the general right range. That's fine, right? And then when you come, uh-huh. No, no. So what you'd want to do is you want to get a little bit closer in on where our current price is. And the reason you want to do this is because once you start trading and you're profitable, you're going to want to be able to manage your trades. And so a lot of times I'll say, guys, 129.26, that's my stop. If it gets below that, if it gets below 129, I'm out. But what I'm not telling you, because you're not ready to hear it, because it's going to screw you up, is I'm not full size. If we get a news headline and we drop down to 128.35, I'm buying it. I'm going to buy this. And I call this the Efren stop loss. That's the name that we came up with it because I was training a guy named Efren, right? And it was like your last ditch hope to add to it, right? And then I would cut if it went any lower. You guys haven't earned the right to do this. So you want to know exactly how the chart should act in every scenario. So for example, if it bounces to 128.35, if it comes to 138.25, I catch it and then I sell it back up here, right? I know at this point, as soon as it comes back to 129.26, it's most likely going to reject. And if it doesn't, you know that an inverted head and shoulders is coming, right? Boom, most likely an inverted head and shoulders. And if that breaks, you still have a chance for a W with your neckline being here. And so it's like, oh, we're holding it, we're holding it, we're holding it. It's just barely hanging on, but it's still hanging on, right? Don't take your eyes off of it. So for me, I'm not taking my eyes off of Googl until we break below 127.45. If we pull down on 127.45 and we push back up into this area, great. I don't care. Hey, you stopped me out, but I'm still willing to get back in it. That's why the number 2 section, which is where the current price is, needs to be very detailed so you know exactly how the price is going to react. This down here is your next, that 124 area is your next area. You're right. But it's what I would call section 1. And these are the ranges we're playing in between. So for example, we want to scalp out a position that we're comfortable holding to take it up to 135. That's the goal. We're trying to absorb in between 130.45 and 129.26. If it fails, comes back in, and then we get back in up in this level. We'll be able to play within these ranges to lower my cost basis so that it's close to 128, because that's ultimately when the chart breaks. No. That 128 is, I'll show you the exact levels that it'll be. It's and the way you search for this is you just bring things in and out, right? In and out of the chart. So do you see this bar right here? So can you see this bar on my screen? See how it protrudes out, right? It's very visible on my screen. It may not be visible on yours, and it might be because I have 10-cent spreads and you have 50-cent spreads or dollar spreads, right? Does that make sense? And so what I'm going to do to figure out where these people are is I'm going to just zoom the people from the third out. It's not them. It wasn't people. So it's got to be these people that created that VP, right? Because they're the only people there. So watch, if I get rid of those people, it's gone, right? And so what happened once already was they created a VP level down here and we bounced off of it once. We start bouncing off of it again, the more likely it is to break, right? And so as we go forward, if we come down here to this level, this will be one second time it touches, and then if it bounces again and comes back to 129.26 and rolls over, that'll be your third touch. Most likely you're going to break and go into the gap, right? And this is how we can read and adjust our plans literally on the fly once you learn to follow your plan. You can't adjust your plan on the fly until you've earned the right to do so. And this is why I can't teach you this stuff until like you learn to obey your plan and stop out, and then you're going to know if your plan sucks or not. We have to be able to make good plans before we can adjust plans, because you won't even know if you're adjusting from a good to a bad or a bad to a good. And so for right now, we've got two spots down here that could provide support if we get underneath these people. That's it. And so here's the game plan going forward for me. I literally am in, okay, so think of it like this. Each green arrow is a buy. Okay, so each green arrow is a buy. So you can play it however you want. You can do 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. You can do 1/2. I'm sorry, 1/4, 1/4, and then 1/2. If you want the lower cost basis, however you want to do it. But for me, I'm doing 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. So let's just use 3,000 because we can divide it by 3. What I've already done as part of this plan that I did live with you guys is I bought 1,000 shares right here as soon as Nate told me about it. I bought another 1,000 down here. And from the beginning of this buy right here, right out the gate, as soon as the market opened, right? And this buy, that gives me 2,000 shares. Well, I sold a quarter piece here and a quarter piece here, right? Which gives me just one of these buys back mathematically, right? So 1/3, 1/3, right? So I've sold an entire 1/3 of this position, and I've scalped out about $2. It's like $1.85. And so now my original buy, which was right at 130, right, is now been moved down to here. So now I'm holding a 1/3 position from here, right? So this green one's gone. I've already scalped it out. And now my cost basis is literally right here. And so now that we're rolling over, if we gap down on Monday, I'm going to buy it. I'm going to buy it again. So let's just pretend we got down to 129.05. Well, shoot, I'm going to buy it. And my stop out is literally going to be, 50 cents, 25 cents, And if we got down to here, then it would be, same thing, 50 to 25 cents, wherever it is, and given it a small amount of range. But my cost basis now, because I've already scalped it out, I can literally buy 2/3 here because I've already sold the 1/3 that I already bought and sold, and I've only got a 1/3 position. And so my cost basis is going to be about 129.50 to 129.25, and I'm going to have 3,000 shares. And if it bounces off of here and comes up to gap close, I'm going to sell 1,500 shares. And so I'm going to be able to take, 129, let's just give it a dollar. I'm going to take 1,500 shares off. And so now my cost basis is well below my stop out. And it's a free trade. And what I'm hoping is Google bounces from here and I can take it back up to here for the gap close. And then I'll start buying on the way up instead of on the way down. Buying and selling on the way up versus on the way down. Does that make sense? So let's just pretend Google gaps up and the market's happy. It's whatever. I don't know. There's peace in Ukraine. And we gap up to here, right? I'm going to take some off. And then I'm going to try to buy a pullback to the next support because we're back above. Does that make sense? And so you make the way that I trade, you guys can do whatever you want. And what Nate does is Nate will simply say, hey, I like this range. I'm going to buy 2 contracts. And his hedge is the size he's trading. Well, what that means is he can make 200% and take those $1.50 contracts and turn them into, $600, or he's going to lose $200, right? $300, right? That's what he's doing. I'm not interested in that game. I don't care about percentages. Can you read it now if I shrink it up? Is it visible? You talking about this one right here? Yeah, that one right there is 129.26. So is there any questions on this, guys? And this is all you do. This is what you do on the way up. This is what you do on the way down. So if I fail here, I'm going to try it again down here. Because I believe Google is a good company. It had great earnings. And if we do come down here, what pattern could be setting up? Well, if you look at it on the weekly, what does it look like? It looks like it's going to be a head and shoulders because you should bounce off this level, come back to this resistance level, and then you should probably roll over. So you're going to be putting in a head and shoulders going into October, or November, which wouldn't be a good sign, right? And you're always going forward from what patterns are being made on the longer time frames to the shorter time frames. That makes sense? Okay, any questions, guys? If not, I'm going to stop the recording. And here is a final look at the numbers over here. So this top one, it's basically 135.25 to 135.45 area. That's going to be your main resistance. But this is how we're going to be playing. I'm going to be playing this a lot next week. Google a lot. It's going to be my main chart to scalp position into. And again, to give you an example on Uber, this is the exact same thing I did on Uber, right? When the chart looked like this, I sent a picture to Nate, and everyone else that said, I'm absorbing down into this range. So boom, I caught the first one, I caught the bounce, I sold it, right? Then I got filled again. Boom, I got filled again, right? Boom, bounce. I was able to sell a piece out there, right? And then we come down and I've already scalped out pieces where I'm literally holding a cost basis below my 42, 47 stop out range. So I'm fine. You go sideways all you want. I don't care. And then I got filled again right here. And because the reason I got filled here is because I knew it either had to work relatively soon or we're going to break down. It's just stuff you'll learn that in the future. And then I took all 3 of those positions back to here. And now I've sold out of half of those 3 positions, right? And so now I've lowered my cost basis from what would be 42-ish, right? And I've taken another $5 out of this. Now I've got a 37 cost basis, which is down at this range, right? I'm not going to let it go down there. I'll stop out before that happens. But I'm willing to give this another shot, Uber another shot into this range for kind of think of it as like a double bottom on the weekly, But this is how I trade, and I do it over and over and over and over again. Okay. Stop the